Story 1. Hey everyone, I'm Nora, and I've got a story for you about my wicked stepmom, Jennifer. I'm sticking with calling her Jennifer because, let's be real, she was never a mom to me, and she made that crystal clear the first time my dad, Matthew, introduced us. She straight up told me she wasn't interested in being any kind of mother to me. Of course, she didn't say it in front of my dad. She was like, "Don't get it twisted. I'm not here to play mom, Nora. You're just my husband's kid, and that's it. You're old enough, so don't think I'm going to bend over backwards for you." And I was like, cool. I can handle stuff myself. I just want my dad to be happy. I won't be a problem. You already in the way, you little witch. Don't try to be smart with me. I know how to manage worthless teens like you. As soon as you turn 18, I will do my best to make sure you are out of our lives for good. Then I will have Matthew all to myself. The talk escalated very quickly to Jennifer saying some exceptionally nasty things about me and my dead mother. Yes, my father was a widower, and my mom died when I was only 8. I miss her terribly, and it took Matthew a long time to date, let alone find love again. That was one reason why I never told my dad about Jennifer's horrible words or behavior. A big mistake, guys. I should have spoken up because this woman turned into a nightmare after she married Dad. Even my dad was shocked by how Jennifer acted. She always had it out for me, trying her hardest to kick me out of the house. She made no secret of hating kids and not wanting me there. A bombshell she never dropped on my dad while they were dating. When Dad stood his ground and wouldn't ditch me, Jennifer began scheming ways to make my life miserable. She used to mess up her food and put the blame on me. She'd say, "Well, look at your daughter, Matthew. Look at what she's done. She has purposefully spoiled my cooking because I refuse to cook for her. She is going to poison me one day." Matthew, Nora, do you have an explanation for this? I swear I don't know anything about this, Dad. I'm totally fine with cooking for myself, actually. I wasn't even home until after you got back, and I picked up some takeout to eat in my room. Oh my God. She's making stuff up now, Matthew. I'm telling you, you've got to do something about her before she seriously harms me. This was just a glimpse of the kind of stuff Jennifer's been pulling for the last 4 years she was in my life. The entire fiasco was over too much salt on her food, which she had added herself to blame me. It was bizarre, but Dad believed me. I had enough proof throughout the year. She did a lot more. She got me off the phone connection, locked me out of the house for 5 hours, took my car keys on the day of an important test, threw away my project that I spent a week making, and much more. Dad did his best to make her understand that this wasn't okay, but she never listened. She would act friendly for a few days before doing something horrible. Again, by the time Jennifer was with us for a year, I got a job and started to pay for a lot of my own things. I simply didn't want her interfering in my life anymore. Dad was upset, but I told him that it would be nice for me to have money of my own. I didn't want him to feel guilty. Jennifer was a stay-at-home wife and considered her dad's money as her own, so she didn't want Dad spending too much on me, not even some of the basics. I tried to be as invisible as possible so that Jennifer would leave me the hell alone. Jennifer just wouldn't back down, constantly hassling me. She was dead set on getting me out of her life in the house, but little did she know what twist of fate was around the corner. The real disaster struck a few weeks after I turned 18. Since my birthday, Jennifer had been weirdly cheerful, almost too happy, humming and sometimes singing around the house. I knew why she was so happy. She was thinking that she would finally be able to get rid of me. Well, not so fast, Jennifer. She had no idea that I had heard her talking to her friend on the phone. She told me how she would ambush me and kick me out. I knew her plan already, but she had no idea what was in store for her. So, the day I came home from work and saw my stuff packed, I was not upset, but just amused. I said, "Hey Jennifer, want to tell me why my stuff is packed and waiting in my bedroom? Are we going on vacation? Don't act so smart, Holly. I hope you remember my words. I told you that once you turn 18, I will be kicking you out. Well, it is time for you to leave now. I have decided to be a good person and pack your stuff for you. You know, make things easier for you. So, you want to kick me out of my house? Oh, no, Nora. This is my house, and I don't want or have to keep you here anymore. I will deal with Matthew later, but you're definitely leaving," Jennifer said, smirking like she'd just won the lottery. It was clear from her face she was already dreaming up plans for my room, but I thought, "Hold your horses, Jennifer. Karma's about to knock on your door." I kept my cool, pulled out some papers from my bag, and handed them to her. She looked at me totally baffled. I just smirked and said, "I think you need to take a look at these papers first, Jennifer. I have been meaning to give you this for a while. Thank God you talked about the eviction today. It just made me remember these documents. What are these papers? Why do I need to read them? Why don't you take a look and find out?" Jennifer sat down and started to read the papers that I had just handed her. She started out looking confused, but slowly her confusion turned into shock and then disbelief. She looked at me and then the papers in her hand again. Then she turned angry. She said, "Is it an eviction notice in my name? What the hell, Nora? What is the meaning of this? It means that I want you out of my house in a month. You know, the usual thing that an eviction paper means. You can't serve me eviction papers. You can't do that. This is my house, and I am the only one who can kick people out. No, Jennifer. This is my house and has always been. So, my dad was just a caretaker who held this place for me until I turned 18. Now that I have it, it belongs to me. I've just recently completed the documentation process. No, no, no. That's impossible. Matthew can't just give you this house. This is our marital asset, and he can't give you the house without consulting me. How is this a marital asset, Jennifer? Dad had this house before you were in the picture. I guess he didn't tell you that this house actually belonged to my maternal grandparents. The house was left to me in their will with Dad as the caretaker until I turned 18, which, as you know, happened a few weeks ago." Jennifer's face went from smug to shocked. No. This can't be real. You're just trying to freak me out and get me to leave," she stammered. "Just wait until your father hears about this. He'll be the one kicking you out, not me." Jennifer then made the ridiculous mistake of calling my father downstairs. She forgot the fact that she never asked my dad if she could kick me out. I mean, even if the house belonged to my father, she should have asked him, right? She knew what his answer would be, so she went behind his back to kick me out. In her frenzy, she forgot this little detail and decided to involve Dad. I'm not complaining, though. It's even better for me this way. Dad came downstairs to check what the yelling was about. He said, "Whoa, calm down, Jennifer. Why are you yelling like a banshee? What is wrong? Why won't I be screaming? Your worthless daughter is making some wild claims again. She's saying that this house belongs to her, and she is kicking me out. Nora, what is going on? I need to know the truth." I knew that my dad would ask my side. He's a good father who knows that his wife can be a mean witch, so he always takes action after considering both sides. This is something that Jennifer always hated. She wanted Dad to take her side no matter who was in the wrong. The number of fights they had over this was just crazy. But Dad, wanting to be fair to both of us, made sure to hear my side of the story too. So, I told him. Jennifer called me down and flat out said she was kicking me out. She was like, "I won't allow you to stay in my house anymore." I knew that she was going to do this. I heard her speaking to someone on the phone, so I decided to kick her out of the house instead. I served her an eviction notice. What the hell, Jennifer? Who gave you permission to try and kick my daughter out? You never discussed this with me. What is going on? Why am I hearing about this now? Jennifer knew that she had messed up at the moment. Like I said, she was so overwhelmed with the eviction notice that she forgot about being caught. I saw her panic for a while before turning hostile and defensive, like she usually does. She said, "Your daughter is already an adult, Matthew." She had turned, and we let her stay in the house rent-free for a month already. Most parents kick their kids out once they turn 18. We need to make Nora learn to live on her own and become responsible. That's for me to decide, Jennifer. You are not and never was her parent. You didn't even contribute to anything related to Nora. How did you think it was okay for you to decide when to kick out my daughter? You've been unfair, Matthew, all these years. I tolerated your favoritism because Nora was just a teenager. But now she's got to leave. I refused to let her stay in my house any longer. To that, the question was raised. Who said this is your house? Show me a deed that puts this house in your name. Jennifer seemed to believe that since it's your place, Matthew, I have equal rights to it since I am your wife, so this is my house too. I won't allow Holly here anymore. She needs to go. This is not my house, and even if it was, you have no right to it. This is Holly's house and has her name on it. Jennifer heard that and went pale. She didn't expect my dad to mirror my words and say that the house belonged to me. She was in her own fairyland where everything belonged to her just because she said so. Hearing anything else was nothing short of shocking and surprising for her. She began to cry and said, "Why would you say such a thing, Matthew?" "Because the house belongs to Holly. I'm just speaking the truth. What's wrong with that? You gave Holly your house without consulting me. How could you do this to me, Matthew? I'm your wife. This is something we should have talked about. I'm not okay with it." To that, the response came, "You didn't seem to have an issue sneaking around trying to throw my daughter out. Why can't I do the same, Jennifer?" Talk about double standards. And then came the clincher. There was nothing to discuss. This house was always meant to be Holly's. I was the only trustee who took care of the house until she turned 18. The house got transferred to her name just recently. Jennifer now understood that we were telling the truth. Dad even offered to show her the papers in case she needed proof. She was in way too much shock to do or say anything coherent. She said, "You deceived me, Matthew. I thought that the house was yours. You lied to me. This is not fair." "I never lied to you, Jennifer. You never asked whose house this was when we got married. We signed a prenup saying that our personal assets were just that, personal." "Oh my God. This can't be true. You should have told me, Matthew. Now Holly is throwing us out. Look at how ungrateful your daughter is, Matthew." "I am not throwing my dad out, Jennifer. That reward is solely yours. You're the one who won't get to live in my house anymore. I would have considered letting you stay here. I told Dad as much. But after you tried to kick me out, I changed my mind. You are going to leave. If you kick me out, your dad will leave too. We're a couple. He won't just abandon his wife." That's when my dad just burst out laughing. He had his own plans up his sleeve, plans I knew about, but he'd been on the fence about whether to go through with them or not. Looks like today's drama made that decision a whole lot easier for him. He was about to blow up his marriage, and Jennifer didn't see it coming at all. He said, "Actually, no, I am not following you, Jennifer. I will stay here and take care of my daughter. I have been on the fence about divorce for a while now. What you tried to do today sealed the deal for me. I will be filing tomorrow. Be ready for it." "Wait, what? Are you going to divorce me? You want to leave me over your daughter? You can't do that." "Yes, I can, Jennifer. You think I was going to forgive you for tormenting my daughter for 3 years? Oh hell no. All this while I thought that you might change. I have been nothing but patient with you. But now I know that you will continue to be a toxic witch. I don't want someone like this in my or my daughter's life." Jennifer took a step back as if she had been physically hurt. She never expected her divorce to come so soon. My dad is actually a pretty quiet man who doesn't do anything drastic. This was actually unlike him. He was furious, and it was written all over his face. He didn't raise his voice, but his tone was enough to reveal just how angry he was. This only made Jennifer more nervous and frantic. She began arguing with my dad, and I decided to step away from the tension, retreating to my room. Dad and Jennifer went at it for a solid hour. Jennifer mostly shouting and crying while my father calmly laid out his reasons to her. After the verbal fight ended, Dad came to my room. He seemed a little upset and refused to meet my eye. He sat down and said, "Holly, I know I need to apologize to you. I'm sorry, dear. I should have done a better job of protecting you against Jennifer. I thought that by being fair and avoiding fights, I would be able to make things work. I was stupid, and I made things worse for you. You don't have to apologize, Dad. I know you love Jennifer, and she wasn't like this when she married you. People change, and sometimes it takes time to come to terms with these changes. Wow, you have matured a lot. You know, I wish I could have done things differently. I intentionally brought a mad woman into our lives. Well, what is done is done. I forgive you, Dad. You really did try your best. I'm not complaining. Do you want to divorce, Jennifer? I won't be mad if you don't. I would understand. Girl, I'm not living with that mad woman anymore. I'm done. Her true face shocked me way too much to act faster. I really don't want her in my life anymore. Although I must say that I saw this coming somewhere in my subconscious. I knew something was up with Jennifer. That's why I made the prenup in the first place. I was worried that she would jinx your future, make trouble with money, so I thought this would be the best way. See, you did think about me too. You deserve to be happy, Dad. That's all I have to say. If Jennifer doesn't matter to you anymore, it's best to part ways. I spent ages convincing my dad that he wasn't some horrible parent of the year. Far from it, actually. He did so much for me, and I knew I just had to help him see that too, to believe in himself as much as I believed in him. I won't lie, guys. I was super happy that my dad was finally getting rid of that crazy woman, Jennifer. She is not the one for Dad and has no business staying married to him. Not after everything she did all these years. The talk with my dad went well, and he went to the guest room to sleep that night. I was finally feeling peaceful, knowing that Jennifer would soon be out of our lives for good. I was able to teach her a nice lesson that I hope she would remember for the rest of her life. The real surprise came the next morning when I found Jennifer trying a little too hard to appear loving and caring towards me. She was in the kitchen making me breakfast and acting like I was the best person in her life. Even Dad was giving her the side eye and looking at me with confusion on his face. When breakfast was over, I said, "Thanks for breakfast, Jennifer. But you don't have to do this anymore. I'm capable of making my own, as I have done for the last 6 years. Things don't need to change out of the blue." "What nonsense, Holly. I'm happy to do this for you. You having our meals together can bring us closer as a family." "What is the need for that? We won't be a family anymore. It's just a matter of time now. You should have done this years ago. It's too late now." "Oh, come on, Matthew. Don't be so hard on me. I'm trying. I can make this work. I'll start being a better parent to Holly. We'll be the best mother-daughter duo ever. Right, Holly?" Jennifer's words were clearly a desperate attempt to salvage the situation. Backed into a corner, she'd taken the night to concoct this new plan. But I knew better than to trust her again. And judging by the look on my dad's face, he had no intentions of trusting her again either. He only looked at her a little amused. Since Jennifer was expectantly looking at me for a reply, I said, "I don't think so, Jennifer. First of all, I'm 18, and I don't need a new parent. I pay my own bills and will be off to college anyway. Secondly, you are and never will be my mother. That word doesn't suit you at all. So no, Holly, I am not interested in whatever scheme you have come up with. Holly, look, I'm sorry for being so mean to you in the past. You need to give people a second chance. We can be a happy family if you agreed to give me a chance, and it will help me strengthen my marriage too. Dad says that you have a marriage within a few months. I don't know what you're trying to achieve here. If this is some scheme to stay in the house, I hate to break it to you, but it's not going to work. I'm kicking you out and I'm going to divorce you regardless. You have already done the damage, Jennifer. There is no point in trying to act all innocent and remorseful. I know you better than that." Jennifer saw that her new strategy was not working. I guess she didn't have anything else in her MO. She couldn't threaten to ruin Dad financially because of a prenup she signed, so she had no other way than to beg and cry, and she did deliver. She started to cry hysterically and begged me not to kick her out. She also begged me to ask my dad to give her another chance. She then begged my dad to be a little more forgiving. Our entire day was filled with Jennifer trying to beg and plead with us for mercy. Since me and my dad were both off from work that day, we had to put up with this torture. My dad did leave for a while to contact the lawyer and file for divorce. Within a week, Jennifer got served with the papers by Dad's lawyer. Once she saw the official documents, her attitude changed drastically. She shifted to begging and crying. Dad and I kindly but firmly told her that she needed to find a job if she wanted a place to live and also to hire a lawyer for the divorce proceeding. Despite everything, she seemed convinced that she could still persuade us to give her another chance. Well, that didn't happen. As the month was up, she was promptly kicked out. She made some trouble when we told her to leave, but after Dad threatened her with more legal trouble, she left sobbing. I heard that she moved in with a friend since her own family can't stand her anymore. As she left, she took the negativity with her, and the house finally felt like home. It's been more than 2 years since the incident. I'm now in college, which happens to be close to home. Dad has successfully divorced Jennifer and is back to dating. He says that he isn't looking to settle again but just wants some company at times. As for Jennifer, last I heard, she moved into a flat with several flatmates and is struggling to make ends meet since she didn't have many qualifications. Jennifer ended up working a minimum wage job, barely making ends meet. I spotted her from a distance at a grocery store one day. She looked like she had aged a decade. Karma had finally caught up with her, and hopefully, it taught her a lesson never to pull something like that again. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Before we start, if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Now let's continue. Found my wife's explicit photos online with her ex and lied about where she was. So I filed for divorce and now I'm fighting for our son's custody. I have been in a relationship with my wife for 15 years, and we have been married for nearly 12. Together, we have 2 sons, one biological and one who I consider mine in every way. I met my wife at a mutual friend's barbecue. She had come with a friend of mine's wife. They had worked together at the time. We hit it off that day, and I thought we had been inseparable ever since. Lately, something changed. There's been a growing distance between us, an invisible wall that seems to be getting thicker by the day. I couldn't quite put my finger on when it started or why, but I felt it in the way she looked at me, in the way she hesitated before speaking. Felt like we weren't on the same page at all. She'd go upstairs to read her book, and I'd be downstairs by myself. She'd go out to meet her friends more often, leaving me to take care of the boys. I couldn't remember the last time we had a real conversation that wasn't about the kids or some mundane household chore. It was like we were going through the motions of being a married couple without actually being connected anymore. A few weeks ago, I dropped my wife off at her lash appointment while I went and did some quick running around. When I came back, I realized she left her phone in the car. I knew she'd be at least another 20 minutes. After a bit, a notification popped up. It was my stepson. Even though I'm completely unaware of how to use Snapchat, I thought it would be funny to send him a message from me using a filter instead of his mom. I sent off a goofy picture back to him. After sending it, I somehow stumbled into my wife's chat section. At first glance, it was nothing. I went to put the phone down, but then I noticed a name I've always hated. I'll call him Luis. At first, I hesitated. I never wanted to be that kind of person who invades someone's privacy by looking through their phone. I never thought I'd be that guy when it came to my wife, but then again, I never thought I'd be where I am right now. Curiosity got the best of me, and honestly, what I saw shocked me to my core. She had saved explicit photos of each other. There were nude photos of him and nude photos of her. There were videos. There were saved conversations about indecent actions between them. Without going into specifics, let's just say it involved oral sex. Despite the obvious betrayal, I couldn't stop myself from reading on. The scattered dates and sparse details from the past made it difficult to piece together the full story, but my curiosity drove me to keep going. With Snapchat, certain parts would automatically vanish, so this added another layer of complexity to the situation. What exactly happened? I needed to know. It was eating me up inside. From what I gathered, things started happening a few times over the past few months, including on my birthday. As I slept upstairs, she had planned a surprise party for me because it was a certain important milestone. I ended up getting too drunk and going upstairs to fall asleep while the rest of the guests were downstairs. I guess she had invited him over. She knew I wouldn't wake up, that I was dead drunk. When the last guest dipped out, he dipped in. The way she spoke about me was most devastating. It was rarely positive and often only partially true, with some statements even being outright false or misleading. I don't know why it was saved, but she told him that I was a lousy lover who seemed disinterested in her anymore, which is so far from the truth. I like to think that I still had my vigor and stamina. We were intimate about 2 to 3 nights a week on average, even with her being strange and acting weird towards me over the last little while. But now it all made sense, I suppose. When I look back now, it's been me pleasuring her for the most part. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I love making my wife feel good. But sometimes it's nice to get something in return. And now that I think about it, that hasn't happened for quite some time. And then I go on to read that she's disgusted by me and hates me touching her. Well, in that moment, the salon door opens, and she peeks out and smiles and waves me in. Was I a fool to pay for that? For her? I was shocked, dumbfounded. I didn't smile back, but I remember making sure I closed the chat she had with Luis. Made sure it didn't look like I was snooping around. I put the phone back where I found it, and then made my way inside the salon. The kicker then was the lash lady was telling me that my wife was saying how amazing a husband I was and how she wishes she had a husband like me who treated her so well. I just had to smile and laugh. What on earth could she have been telling this lady when I was reading something completely earth-shattering moments earlier? As soon as we reached our car, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I spilled all the details to her, making sure she understood not to touch her phone until we had a chance to discuss everything. We cried and yelled on the drive home. Once we arrived, I immediately delved into the issue at hand. She was hesitant but eventually gave me her unlocked phone. It was a tough conversation from there on out. We argued over and over, with her denying and then admitting until finally she relented. She confessed that she had been feeling neglected and undesired, but that it wasn't an excuse to cheat. It was a confession that left me feeling heartbroken and betrayed, but also confused. I couldn't understand how everything had spiraled so out of control. Then I started asking myself, had I been so focused on my own desires that I had neglected her needs? Had I unintentionally pushed her towards Luis's arms? I had questioned her about Luis, trying to understand the extent of their relationship. My wife had responded by saying that they had been texting and sending nudes for months, but that they had never slept together. She maintained that it had always been just a fling relationship and nothing more. I told her that was hard to believe based on the messages back and forth to Luis. Then she admitted to the infidelity with Luis in her own home on my birthday. She said they had sex in the spare bedroom in the basement. And then there was a time she said she went for a hike with a girlfriend, and she had actually met up with him instead of her girlfriend, and they had sex off the trail in the middle of the bush. My heart fell to my feet as she confessed. I tried to remain composed, but my anger and pain boiled over. I had always been there for her, providing for our family and sacrificing my own personal time to be with her and our boys. How could she do this to me? How could she throw away everything we had built together? It gets better. I had to know everything, so I kept probing and asking all the questions that came to mind. As we got deeper into the conversation, she wasn't crying. By the way, more and more was uncovered. Now this brings me to Luis. Before we met, she had been seeing Luis. I never liked the guy. She'd bring him up sometimes, and sometimes even mutual friends would bring him up, and I just hated it. There were little comments she'd bring up about him every now and again, and looking back, I should have known. But hindsight is always 20/20ths. What I didn't know was that she was seeing him behind my stepson's bio dad. Apparently, she didn't know who was my stepson's real father at the time she got pregnant, which is why the bio dad took off and left her. She kept seeing Luis for a little while after, but he took off right before he was born and left her high and dry with my precious boy. Eventually, she said she got a paternity test because she was trying to get financial assistance from my stepson's bio dad, and it was confirmed that he was in fact the father and not Luis. As soon as she spoke those words, my thoughts ran wild, and I confronted her about any and every situation where she could have potentially cheated. Most of the examples were minor except for one that stood out. Many, many years ago, before we were even married, she didn't come home until almost 2 a.m. after work one night. I asked her where she had been, but all she said was that she was out. Despite my concerns, I brushed it off in my naive state of being in a new relationship. However, it always stayed at the back of my mind and came up again on that particular night as I asked her, trying to control my emotions that were a mix of anger and hurt. She immediately became tense. Now the waterworks. Tears started streaming down her face. She admitted to going for drinks with a male coworker who had been flirting with her. She had told him that she was single at the time, and they went for drinks and ended up making out in his car in the parking lot of the bar. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The lies, the betrayal, the years of secrets, the pain of the past was now coming back to haunt us. It felt like a lifetime of love and trust had been shattered in just a few hours of uncovering the truth. I didn't know who I was speaking to anymore, and so now I'm here writing this. My wife went away for the weekend so we could have some space. Apparently, she's at a girlfriend's house, but I can't even be sure about that. I told her that if I find out that she went to Luis's place, that the marriage is over, that this is over. She said she wouldn't, but who knows? Who knows what's true anymore? I'm taking the boys to their volleyball games this weekend, so I'll be able to keep myself busy, but I'm at a loss here. It seems that every direction I look is the wrong one. I don't want to lose my wife. I don't want to lose my boys. I love my family more than anything. However, I refuse to just sit back and be taken advantage of, to be made to feel small and deceived, only to shrug it off and act like it didn't affect me. I feel completely alone and unsure of what to do. So I took a leap of faith and came here, despite my lack of knowledge on the subject. I can't stop thinking about what she was telling Luis. I feel totally emasculated. Do I file for divorce, seeing as how this seems to be a troubling trend? I wasn't lying when I said if I found out she ran right to Luis, this was it. I just have to figure out how to keep my boys. Being a father is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Edit 1. I took pictures of the conversations they had and that we've had. I'm compiling the evidence just in case and to keep her honest. Edit 2. I think I need to take a break and process everything until tomorrow. This has all been a bit too much for me to handle at the moment, but I want to thank everyone for their comments and advice, even the ones who believe my fate is to be a cuckold. I knew that people would have different and passionate opinions, and that's what I wanted to hear. Others' perspectives. It's just difficult to accept that my marriage may be over so suddenly after investing half of my life into building it. Update 1. Monday morning came, and my wife comes back home. She gets ready, and I try to be cool and casually ask where she stayed over the weekend before she goes to work. I just happened to be working from home that day. She told me it was a female coworker, Natalia, because she was too embarrassed to tell our mutual friends that we got into an argument because she didn't want to tell them what it was about. She said she wants to fix this and doesn't want everyone knowing. She said we can fix this. I had a hunch that she wouldn't tell me the truth. There were a few ladies she's close to at work. One of them has become a close friend of mine as well, and I didn't think she'd go there to wear our dirty laundry. The other she's mentioned a few times. I know she's a real person because we've gone out on double dates a few times with whoever she's dating at the time. She can't keep a boyfriend. She's constantly dating someone new. And whenever my wife says she's going out for drinks with the girls, she's there, so I know she's a good time and sort of a bad influence. So if she's going anywhere to complain about a marriage and cry it out, it would have been her. So I'm not proud of it, but I go on Facebook and find Natalia's profile and message her on there. I kind of lie and say that I wanted to plan a fun date night with my wife next weekend, and I was hoping that Natalia could come along and invite whoever. I also go in and sort of say, I hope you and my wife had a good time over the weekend. She comes back and says she'd love to hang out, but then quickly says that she's not sure what I'm talking about. She said she's been out of town for a funeral, but will be back in time for the date night next weekend. And so then I knew my wife had been lying again. I sat there in disbelief, staring at my phone as I read Natalia's response. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of the information. She had lied to me again. It was like a knife twisting in my gut. I couldn't believe the extent of her deceit. I felt a surge of anger and hurt course through my veins. How could she do this to me, to our family? I thought we were partners, equals in this marriage. But now I started to wonder if I had ever truly known her well. It's over. She said she didn't want everyone knowing. I picked up the phone and called my brother, who just went through something similar. I told him what's happened, and I'm not afraid to say that I shed some tears. I couldn't let my wife continue to lie and manipulate me. It was time to take control of my life and protect my family. He gave me the information to his lawyer, and I immediately emailed him. His assistant got back right away, and I got things started. I said I wanted joint custody of my kids and explained the situation. I told my brother not to tell anybody quite yet, but that I wanted to get things settled and really hit her where it hurts before anybody found out. Update 2. A few weeks later, I received a call from the lawyer's office. He informed me that the divorce was underway and that I needed to gather all pertinent information and documents. I felt a sense of relief knowing that I was taking the necessary steps to protect myself and my family. During this time, I also reached out to a therapist to help me navigate the emotional turmoil I was experiencing. He also said I had a good chance of keeping my kids with me if they chose to stay with me. Well, that also scared me because I felt like we were all so close. I didn't want my kids to have to choose between their mom or dad. This was all supposed to be pretty secret. I wanted to make sure I had everything covered before giving her the papers because I didn't know how she'd react. So I was essentially waiting for the right moment. Some of you might think that I was just dragging it on. But I wasn't. There was a method to the madness. Yes, during all of this, I was still acting like I was wanting to fix things with my wife. I couldn't give her any ideas that I was wanting to end things, so I played along. I tried to play house to the best of my ability. But then there was sort of this sticky thing that happened in trying to keep things secret. Things, in fact, did not stay a secret. My brother, of course, told his wife, and his wife then kind of spilled the beans to everyone. I wasn't really mad about it, but it ended up getting back to my sons because their cousins told them what their mom had done. My sons sat me down one day while their mom was out and said they knew what was going on with me and mom. They said they had my back, and they said no matter what, they don't want to live with her. I told them I'd do whatever I could to make that happen. Later that day, I decided to give my STBX the divorce papers. As I handed her the papers, she was in shock. She couldn't believe that I had taken such a drastic measure, and she begged me to reconsider, but I was firm in my decision. I made it clear that I wanted to do what was best for our kids and that I was willing to fight for their best interests. In the coming weeks, the legal process began. We met with our respective lawyers, and the negotiations started. Every day, I felt the weight of the divorce hanging over me like a dark cloud, but I knew that I had to be strong for my kids. During this time, the boys stayed with me, and my STBX moved out. You guessed it, she went to stay with Luis. Update 3. The boys are with me full-time, and that's now legal with the court. My ex gets them every second weekend, but that was only if she moved out of Luis's place and got her own apartment, which she did. She stayed with Luis a little bit longer. She had also quit her job that she's been at for over 10 years because he claimed he had an opportunity for her to work from home doing something with his business or something like that, but he actually ended up getting arrested for tax evasion. I don't really know the details anyway. I'll try to keep things as simple as possible. She's out of a job, and she's currently looking for employment. She's asked me for money a few times to pay the rent, but I flat out told her that I can't do it. I think she's now looking to move back into her family home with her mom and dad. She has nowhere else to go. Everyone's pretty not impressed with her right now, and the boys don't really want to have anything to do with her. The divorce proceedings were difficult, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was a roller coaster of emotions, and it felt like a heavy weight was on my chest every day. My ex tried to pull me down, and there were times when I thought I would never see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I kept going, not just for myself but for my boys. They needed a stable environment, and I knew that I had to be the one to provide that for them. Now on to the next story. Story 3. Is it wrong for me not to care about my ex or her child? We were married for 11 years, and I thought we had a great relationship, but it turned out to be a lie when I discovered that the child we thought was mine actually wasn't. Things got more complicated. The little girl, who was under 1 year old at the time, was diagnosed with a genetic disease neither my ex-wife nor I had. After a genetic test revealed I wasn't the father, I promptly ended the relationship, wished her well, and started the divorce process. However, I was served with a summons for a child support case. My lawyer warned me that, given my previous role as a father, I might be ordered to pay. I wanted to fight, but I was at a disadvantage. The real father was eventually found, and I was still ordered to pay. She seemed pleased after the hearing, and I was upset, admittedly, so I told her I would send her a check before garnishment kicked in. I quickly liquidated all my assets, taking a loss on some things, but hey, I'm still young. I called my parents, and they got my room ready, so I moved back home in my home country. I sent my ex a picture of me smiling back home and wished her the best of luck. I've received a few calls and letters regarding the support, but they got blocked or tossed into the trash. I don't think I'm the a-hole here. I didn't cheat, and the child isn't mine. Some people discuss the bond, but I can't say it was strong since I was ready to leave as soon as I found out. I got wind of the situation and I'm curious about Reddit's thoughts. Is it justified now? Let's dive into the top comments. There's not much hope, and I'm genuinely surprised by all the a-hole ratings I'm receiving. It's pointed out that she was well aware the child wasn't mine, yet she had the audacity to take the matter to court for child support. Kudos to me for cutting ties and moving forward. She made her choices, and now she has to live with them. I'm reminded that I'm not obligated to financially support a child that isn't biologically mine. In the comments, there's sympathy for the situation, acknowledging that not many people in my position would stick around. Best wishes are extended for a new and happy life. It's also noted that it's unfortunate how people play with lives and involve a child in such a complicated situation. The system's flaws are discussed, questioning why it would order child support for a kid that isn't biologically mine, especially when it's been less than a year since I started raising the child. The complexity of the situation and the lack of consideration for the emotional and financial well-being of the falsely accused parent are recognized. It seems the system is more focused on the best interests of the child, sometimes neglecting fairness for the parent. The comments express understanding for my decision and highlight the need for a reevaluation of the legal system in such cases. Please don't shoot the messenger. Just giving some info based on what I learned from working with a family law firm. Lawyers basically say the law isn't looking at what is fair to the parents, and more, it's what is best for the child. So if you've been caring for a child for a year, then your question is how would it be beneficial for a child to lose a parent's financial stability? If you can't find a real dad, you somehow have to argue that it's detrimental to the child for you to continue being in its life, even if it's just financially, which, as you can imagine, is pretty difficult. It sucks, but the system needs a huge overhaul, and I don't think a lot of people with the power to do so want to get into it. Not the whole, because I don't agree with a system that allows someone to be liable after being lied to. I would commend you if you were still there for an innocent child, but I think the system isn't fair. Now on to the next story. Story 4. Best friend called me and said my wife was caught cheating with a hotel employee. So I gathered evidence and exposed their affair online. My name is Lucas. My wife, Arya, and I were married for 3 years before we went our separate ways. Arya and I lived in the same town, but I didn't know her until I was 25. Even with that, we didn't start dating until 4 years ago. We dated for a year and we married for 3 years. I know this might sound simple, but meeting Arya was love at first sight. I liked her the instant I met her, and I had this conviction that she would be the woman I would spend the rest of my life with. She was intelligent, hardworking, and pretty, and I felt we were a match made in heaven. Even though she gave me a tough time before we dated, I didn't mind waiting for her until she was mine. Fast forward to after we got married. I was literally the happiest man on earth. Although I did not express myself so much, I was glad we were finally married. Everything was blissful for the first 2 years and some months of our marriage. We enjoyed each other's company and literally did everything together for a long time. I had been hoping to find a woman who would love me wholeheartedly, and when Arya came into my life, I was relieved. While we were married, Arya and I didn't have so many issues, and also we knew it was very normal for us to butt heads from time to time, and we understood that. We tried as much as possible to settle whatever issue we had before it got to the extent of keeping malice with each other. Arya was someone who loved to hang out and party with her friends, and I was someone who loved to stay home and watch TV. I barely went out except it was extremely important. In fact, I would prefer to cancel on my friends and stay at home to rest or do something for myself for once. I never stopped Arya from doing her thing. I supported her and allowed her to go out with her friends as much as she wanted during weekdays, and then on weekends we would spend quality time together at home. The reason I never had issues with her always going out with her friends was because I trusted her, and I didn't expect that she would do anything to hurt me or even cheat on me. I also kept to my promise and didn't do anything that would hurt Arya. Even before we married, I stopped talking to a couple of girls I used to, not because they were bad people, but because hanging around them always would lead me to temptation. Also, Arya had told me about her ex-boyfriend and how she was hurt and heartbroken when she found out he was cheating on her with multiple partners, and I didn't want to cause her that kind of pain again. This was why she didn't say yes to me the first few times I asked her out. She claimed she was still deeply hurt and needed to be sure she had healed properly before entering another relationship. I had also been hurt in my previous relationship, but that was a very long time ago, so I could relate to her feelings, and we assured each other that we would never cheat or do anything that would cause us pain. We agreed to not have kids yet because we wanted to spend time with ourselves and ensure that we were not holding ourselves back so our kids would enjoy the full love of their parents. Things were fine between us, and even as Arya continued to go out, I never suspected anything off. Nothing changed about her. She still acted, dressed, took care of me, and did her wifely duties, so I was so shocked one day when I received a call from a friend of mine to come and take my wife. This friend of mine who called was a hotel manager in a very popular tourist hotel in our town. We lived in a very small town, so almost everyone, young and old, knew the hotel. When he called me to come and get my wife from the hotel, I was shocked because that wasn't where Arya told me she was going. She told me she was hanging out with her other girlfriends at one of their friends' family restaurants. I even dropped her there myself. At first, I tried to explain to him that he was mistaken and might have been someone who looked like Arya, but he insisted that she was the one and that I should come over. The distance from the restaurant where I dropped Arya was almost a 45-minute drive to the hotel, meaning she left immediately after I dropped her there. Confused and curious to find out what was happening, I drove to the hotel and found Arya there. She was with an employee of the hotel, and the police were already involved. When I asked them to explain what was going on, I was informed that she was trespassing and that the employee I saw her with promised to give her a free room. They planned to spend hours together, but somehow they were caught. I was so surprised and disappointed at the same time. Felt like a dream or a prank. I wanted to say something like, "We were only pulling your legs." But when that didn't happen, it struck me that Arya had been cheating on me the whole while. In addition, the employee confessed that it wasn't the first time they did so, and it had been going on for weeks. Meanwhile, while the employee confessed, Arya was already on her knees begging me not to listen to them, that she was being framed. I knew she was lying because she wasn't kidnapped to the hotel. She went there by herself to sleep with the employee. Since the manager was my friend, he wanted to let me know before he pressed charges. I was so embarrassed and heartbroken, and I even encouraged him to press charges so he could deal with Arya as he wanted. Arya was shocked when she heard my response, and her tears intensified. She begged me to talk to my friend, but my mind was made up. When she saw that I wasn't begging my friend, she begged me to take her home. I didn't say anything to her, and I watched as she cried and begged. Her affair partner was fired on the spot, and they were both arrested. To humiliate her more, I courted her and her affair partner as they were being arrested, and after they were taken away, I posted it online. I also posted and announced on our local town's Facebook group that she was cheating on me and having an affair at a hotel with an employee. Most people in the group knew us, and that's how the news got to everyone. By the time she was bailed by her parents, she and her affair partner were the talk of town, and they faced a lot of ridicule. It was very shameful that even her close friends deserted her. It was hilarious when she tried to come home and beg me. She said she couldn't explain what pushed her to cheat on me and that she was so sorry. She claimed she still loved me and wanted us to work out, but I told her it wasn't possible. Even after she took her things out of my house and we divorced, she kept begging and crying. She even asked her best friend to try and talk to me, but I warned her and asked her to leave my house. It's been 1 year since it happened, but it still feels like yesterday. I'm having a tough time moving on, but I know that one day this will be a long-forgotten history. As for her affair partner, I don't know what happened to him, but I do know Arya did not end up with him. Now on to the next story. Story 5. My husband and my MIL were excited when I was pregnant with twins, but when I got to know about the reason behind that excitement, I was shocked. I, 28F, am currently pregnant with twins, and at first, I was overjoyed. My husband, 30M, seemed thrilled too, and he's been incredibly supportive since we found out. However, I can't shake this nagging feeling that something isn't quite right. When we first discovered I was pregnant, my husband was excited but not overly so. He hugged me, kissed me, and told me he was happy. It was a normal reaction, I thought. We went to the first ultrasound together, holding hands in the waiting room. The technician did her thing, and then she paused, looked at the screen more closely and said, "Congratulations, it looks like you're having twins." That's when things started to change. My husband's face lit up like I'd never seen before. He practically jumped out of his chair, hugging me tightly and kissing my forehead. He kept saying, "Twins, we're having twins," over and over. I was happy too, but his reaction seemed almost over the top. From that day on, my husband became super attentive. He started doing all the household chores without me asking. He'd wake up early to make me breakfast in bed, complete with prenatal vitamins and a glass of fresh orange juice. He'd rush home from work to give me foot rubs and ask about my day. He even downloaded a bunch of pregnancy apps and started reading parenting books about raising twins. Don't get me wrong, I appreciated all of this, but it was such a stark change from his usual behavior that it made me wonder. He'd never been a slob or anything, but he'd also never been this proactive about housework or this attentive to my needs. Then there was the issue with my mother-in-law, M. She and I have never had the best relationship. She's always been polite but cold towards me, and I often felt like she didn't think I was good enough for her son. When we told her about the pregnancy, she smiled and congratulated us, but it was pretty lukewarm. However, when my husband excitedly told her we were having twins, her entire demeanor changed. She squealed with delight, hugged me, which she's never done before, and started talking about all the things she wanted to buy for the babies. She called me the next day to ask how I was feeling and if I needed anything. She even offered to come over and help with housework or cooking. Again, I should have been thrilled. My ML was finally warming up to me, but it all felt so sudden and out of character that I couldn't help but feel suspicious. As my pregnancy progressed, both my husband and MIL's behavior became even more intense. He suggested I quit my job to focus on the pregnancy and raising the babies. He even talked about hiring a full-time nanny to help out. My MIL, meanwhile, became a constant presence in our lives. She'd come over several times a week, always bringing gifts for the babies or home-cooked meals for us. She started planning a massive baby shower and talking about how she wanted to be in the delivery room when the twins were born. All of this attention and care should have made me feel loved and supported. Instead, I found myself growing more and more anxious. Why were they both so fixated on the fact that we were having twins? Why did it seem like the babies were all they could talk about? I tried to brush off my concerns. Pregnancy hormones can make you paranoid, right? But the feeling wouldn't go away. I started noticing little things that made me even more suspicious. One day, I overheard my husband on the phone with his mother. He was talking in a low voice, and I only caught snippets of the conversation. "Need to be careful. Don't want her to suspect. Everything's going according to plan." When he saw me, he quickly ended the call and acted like nothing was wrong. My MIL started asking odd questions too. She wanted to know if twins ran in my family, if I'd used any fertility treatments, and even what my blood type was. When I asked why she wanted to know, she laughed it off and said she was just being a curious grandma-to-be. I tried to talk to my best friend about my concerns, but she told me I was being ridiculous. "You're so lucky," she said. "Your husband is being amazing, and your MIL is finally accepting you. Why can't you just enjoy it?" But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Why were they so obsessed with the twins? Why did their behavior change so dramatically? And what was with all the secrecy and weird questions? I know I should be grateful for all the support and care I'm receiving. My husband has been attentive to my every need, making sure I'm comfortable and well-fed. He's been to every doctor's appointment, asks intelligent questions, and seems genuinely interested in every aspect of the pregnancy. My MIL has been equally involved. She's offered to host a gender reveal party, has been knitting matching blankets for the twins, and keeps sending us articles about raising multiples. She's even talked about moving closer to us so she can help out more once the babies arrive. I know I should be over the moon with all this attention and support, but instead, I find myself lying awake at night wondering what's really going on. Am I just being paranoid and ungrateful? Or is there something sinister behind their sudden obsession with my twin pregnancy? I've tried to subtly probe for more information, but both my husband and M are quick to change the subject when I ask too many questions. They keep saying I should just relax and enjoy being pregnant, that they want to take care of everything for me. But their firmness on handling everything only makes me more suspicious. I've even started to wonder if they know something about the twins that they're not telling me. Did the doctor say something to my husband that he's keeping from me? Is there a medical issue they're trying to hide? Or is it something else entirely? I feel guilty for having these thoughts. My husband has been nothing but loving and supportive. He massages my swollen feet every night, makes sure I'm taking all my vitamins, and has even started learning how to cook healthier meals for me. He talks to my belly every night, telling the twins stories and how much he loves them already. My MIL calls every day to check on me, sends care packages filled with pregnancy safeties and lotions, and has offered to pay for a doula to help with the birth. She's planning a lavish baby shower and has already started a college fund for the twins. I know I should be grateful. Many women would kill to have this level of support during their pregnancy, but I can't help feeling like there's more to the story. The way they exchange glances when they think I'm not looking, the hushed phone conversations that stop when I enter the room, the excessive enthusiasm that seems forced at times. It all adds up to something that doesn't feel right. Should I confront them about my suspicions? Or am I risking ruining the newfound peace in our family? Am I just being hormonal and paranoid? Or are my instincts telling me something important? I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to enjoy this pregnancy and the support I'm receiving, but another part of me can't shake the feeling that there's a secret being kept from me. A secret that involves my unborn children. I'm torn between gratitude and suspicion, and I don't know which feeling to trust. So Reddit, am I wrong for not simply accepting this sudden outpouring of love and support? Should I be investigating further? Or should I just count my blessings and enjoy the rest of my pregnancy? I'm lost and confused, and I could really use some outside perspective on the situation. Update. I'm sorry I haven't updated in a while. Everything has been a blur, and I've been too devastated to write about what happened, but I feel like I need to share this, even if I can't go into much detail right now. I went into labor at 38 weeks. My husband rushed me to the hospital, and my M met us there. The delivery was long and difficult. I was in labor for almost 24 hours. Throughout it all, my husband and M were by my side, encouraging me and telling me how strong I was. Finally, I heard a cry, then another. The nurses took the babies away quickly to clean them up and check their vitals. I was exhausted but so happy. My husband kissed my forehead and told me how proud he was of me. But then things got strange. The doctors and nurses were whispering. My husband and M left the room to see the babies. When they came back, something was off. They looked upset, but they tried to hide it. A doctor came in and told me that one of my babies hadn't made it. They said it was a stillbirth, that sometimes these things happen with twins. I was in shock. I couldn't process what they were saying. How could this be? I had heard 2 cries. I asked to see my babies. They brought in one beautiful, healthy baby girl, but they told me the other baby had already been taken away. It was too late, they said. There was nothing they could have done. I am devastated. How could I have lost a baby without knowing? Why didn't they tell me sooner? Why didn't I get to see or hold my other baby? My husband told me to focus on our surviving daughter. He said we should be grateful that we have her. My MIL agreed, saying we should count our blessings. But something doesn't feel right. I can't shake the feeling that I'm not being told the whole truth. Why won't they let me see my other baby? Why won't they give me a clear explanation of what happened? I'm too heartbroken and confused to think clearly. I love my daughter, but I'm mourning the twin I never got to meet. And underneath it all, that nagging suspicion is still there, telling me that something isn't adding up. I'm sorry I can't write more right now. It's too painful and I'm too confused. I don't know what to think or feel. I'm grateful for my daughter, but I'm grieving for her twin, and I'm scared that there's something my husband and IL aren't telling me. I don't know what to do next. I'm lost in a fog of grief and suspicion. If anyone has been through something similar or has any advice, please let me know. I feel so alone right now, even with my family around me. I just want to know the truth about what happened to my babies. Update. It's been 2 years since I gave birth to my twins and was told that one of them didn't survive. 2 years of grief, confusion, and a nagging feeling that something wasn't right. I've learned to hide my pain, to focus on raising my daughter, and to try to move forward with my life. But everything I thought I knew was shattered in a single afternoon. My mother came to visit me one day when my husband was at work. She seemed nervous and asked to talk to me alone. Once we were seated in the living room, she took a deep breath and told me she had something important to share. What she said next turned my world upside down. My mother told me that my twin child didn't die 2 years ago. It was all a lie, a carefully orchestrated plan by my husband and his mother to give one of my babies to my husband's infertile sister and her husband. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt like I was in a nightmare. My mother explained that she had learned about this from a close friend of my husband's sister. At first, she didn't want to believe it either, but she started investigating. She had gathered proof, a recorded phone call and some paperwork related to the adoption. My mother said she waited to tell me until she had enough evidence. She didn't want to upset me without being absolutely certain. She played the recorded call for me. It was between my husband's sister and her friend, discussing how they got one of my babies. They talked about the plan, how my MIL and husband had arranged everything with a corrupt doctor. I felt sick to my stomach. All the suspicions I had during my pregnancy, all the weird behavior from my husband and MIL, it all suddenly made sense. They had been planning this all along. I was in shock, but as the reality of what had happened sank in, I felt a rage unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. How could they do this to me? How could they steal my child and let me believe she was dead for 2 years? I thanked my mother for telling me the truth, painful as it was. She hugged me and said she'd support me no matter what I decided to do next. After she left, I sat in stunned silence for hours, trying to process everything. When my husband came home that evening, I confronted him. I told him everything I knew and demanded the truth. At first, he tried to deny it, but when I mentioned the evidence my mother had, he broke down. He admitted everything. He told me how his sister had been desperate for a baby and how she and my MAL had come up with this plan. They had found a doctor willing to fake a stillbirth for a large sum of money. My husband said he had initially been against it, but his mother and sister had convinced him it was the right thing to do. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The man I had loved and trusted had betrayed me in the worst possible way. He had stolen my child and lied to me for years. He had watched me grieve for a baby that wasn't dead, all to please his sister and mother. I told him to get out of the house. I couldn't bear to look at him anymore. He begged for forgiveness, said we could work it out, but I was beyond hearing any of it. I told him I wanted a divorce and that I would be fighting for custody of both my children. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings and emotional turmoil. I filed for divorce and started the process of reclaiming my stolen child. My lawyer was shocked by the case but assured me we had a strong legal standing. We filed a lawsuit against my husband, his sister, my MIL, and the doctor involved. The evidence my mother had gathered was crucial in building our case. As the investigation progressed, more details came to light. It turned out that my ML had been planning this since before I even got pregnant. She had known about her daughter's infertility and had seen my pregnancy as an opportunity. The excessive care and attention during my pregnancy had all been part of their plan to keep me calm and unsuspecting. The hardest part was learning about the day of the birth. Both my babies had been born healthy, but one was quickly whisked away while I was still groggy from the delivery. They had planned every detail, from the fake stillbirth announcement to the quick removal of my baby from the hospital. As the case progressed, I also learned that my husband's sister and her husband had no idea about the true origin of their adopted child. They had been told it was a private adoption arranged by my MIL. They were devastated when they learned the truth and immediately agreed to return my daughter. The court case was long and emotionally draining. My husband, MIL, and the doctor all faced criminal charges for their roles in the kidnapping and fraud. The judge was appalled by the case and showed no leniency. In the end, justice was served. My husband and MIL were sentenced to prison time. The doctor had his medical license permanently revoked. My husband's sister and her husband were not charged, but they had to undergo therapy and supervision before being allowed to pursue legal adoption in the future. Most importantly, I was reunited with my daughter. The day I finally got to hold her in my arms, knowing she was really mine, was the most emotional moment of my life. She looked so much like her sister, It was uncanny. The reunion wasn't easy, though. My daughter had bonded with my husband's sister and her husband, the only parents she had known for 2 years. The transition was difficult for everyone involved. We had to work with child psychologists to make the process as smooth as possible for both of my girls. It's been a few months since the reunion, and we're still adjusting. My twins are getting to know each other, and it's beautiful to see them together. But it's also heartbreaking to think of the time we lost. The divorce was finalized, and I got full custody of both girls. My ex-husband has allowed supervised visitation, but honestly, I'm not sure I'll ever be able to forgive him for what he did. The trust is completely shattered. My relationship with my MIL is obviously beyond repair. I can't even bring myself to think about her without feeling angry. My husband's sister and her husband have apologized profusely and want to maintain a relationship with the girls, but I'm still unsure how to handle that situation. My mother has been my rock through all of this. She's helped me with the girls, supported me through the legal battles, and been there for me emotionally. I don't know how I would have gotten through this without her. As for me, I'm still processing everything that happened. I'm in therapy, trying to work through my feelings of betrayal, grief, and anger. Some days are better than others. I'm overjoyed to have both my girls with me, but I'm also mourning the 2 years I lost with my daughter. I'm also dealing with the guilt of having not trusted my instincts during the pregnancy and after the birth. I knew something was off, but I let myself be convinced that I was just being paranoid. I'm trying to forgive myself for that, but it's not easy. The girls are doing well, all things considered. They're bonding as sisters, and it's amazing to watch. My formerly only child had to adjust to suddenly having a twin sister, but she's adapted remarkably well. My reunited daughter is still adjusting to her new home and family, but she's making progress every day. I'm taking things one day at a time. Some days the anger and pain threaten to overwhelm me. Other days, I'm filled with joy at having my family complete at last. It's a roller coaster of emotions, but I'm doing my best to stay strong for my girls. I've connected with support groups for parents of kidnapped children who were reunited, and their stories have helped me feel less alone. It's a unique kind of trauma we've experienced, and it helps to talk to others who understand. Looking to the future, I'm focused on healing and building a new life for myself and my daughters. I'm planning to move to a new town for a fresh start, away from the painful memories and the prying eyes of those who know our story. I'm also considering writing a book about our experience, hoping it might help other families and raise awareness about the need for better safeguards in hospitals to prevent this kind of tragedy. To those who supported me through my original posts and the updates, thank you. Your kindness and support meant more than you know. To anyone who might be experiencing doubts or suspicions like I did, trust your instincts. Don't let anyone gaslight you or make you think you're being paranoid. And to any other parents out there who might be going through something similar, don't give up hope. Miracles can happen. I never thought I'd see my daughter again, and now she's asleep in the next room with her sister. It's been a long, painful journey, but I'm hopeful for our future. My girls are together where they belong, and that's what matters most. We have a lot of healing ahead of us, but we'll face it together as a family. Now on to the next story. Story 6. I might be in a hole for not giving my wife her daughter's address so she could see the newborn. Hear me out, please. I'm a 40-year-old father who lost a daughter, Molly, years ago to brain cancer. Molly's passing shattered me. She was my only child. I've undergone a significant transformation since that tragedy. I entered into marriage with my wife when my stepdaughter, Sarah, was just 15. Sarah faced difficulties with her biological mother, who would kick her out over minor disagreements, be it for getting a haircut, failing a class, or various other reasons. This tumultuous relationship continued with her mom insisting she returned home to learn her lesson or face expulsion. On one occasion, her mother expelled her over a diary-related issue when Sarah was 17, and that marked the breaking point. Sarah chose not to return and took charge of her life by finding employment. Throughout this period, I maintained communication with her, unable to watch her struggle. While financial assistance was initially rejected, she displayed remarkable independence and a strong work ethic, reminiscent of my late daughter, Molly. In an effort to support her dreams, I leveraged my connections to secure a better job opportunity for Sarah. This allowed her to continue earning a living, aligning with her desire to work for her income. Moreover, the new job recognized her talents more than her previous one. Sarah's aspirations leaned towards becoming a graphic designer, so I went the extra mile by selling my old car to finance her courses. She started paying me back bit by bit, only because she's independent. She lived with her then boyfriend, now husband, and paid for other things. My wife didn't try to mend things. She disowned Sarah the day she got married, but I stood firm and told her that I'm free to talk to Sarah, and she should respect that. I attended gatherings with Sarah from time to time, and she calls me Dad in front of other people, whereas in the past it was just my name. This sounds crazy, but I believe this all happened just so I could meet Sarah and have a chance at being the best father that I could be. She's now 22 and just had a baby girl a few weeks ago. I visited several times and we talked. She told me that it was unfortunate that she lost her dad but was glad she has me in her life. I cried, although I'm not good at expressing emotions, and it got worse after Molly's death. My wife knew about the baby and demanded to give her the address so she could go see her granddaughter. I refused because Sarah asked me not to tell, and because she's already dealing with postpartum and will not be able to deal with her mom's behavior. In the heat of our disagreement, my wife expressed strong feelings, insisting that this is her daughter and grandchild, and I shouldn't prevent her from seeing them. She accused me of being selfish and cruel, intensifying our argument. Surprisingly, the rest of the family sided with her, advising me to stay out of the matter. Despite my attempts to discuss the issue with my wife, she asserted that I had no rights and demanded the address. Regrettably, she showed no signs of remorse or willingness to apologize for her behavior. The blame for being perceived as cruel and demanding now rests on me, with everyone in the family pointing fingers. To alleviate the tension, I eventually provided her with the address. In response to popular opinion, I declined to disclose the address in the first place, as per Sarah's request, emphasizing that her wishes should be respected. If I were to do otherwise, it would go against what Sarah desires. Presenting this perspective to the hypothetical court, I argue that my actions align with being a responsible and understanding father. The focus is on maintaining the trust and respecting the boundaries of Sarah, a commitment I'm determined not to overstep. The one who drove a wedge in the family was the one who disowned her own daughter, but the rest of the family have a problem with me and see this as an opportunity to put the blame on me for what happened. I used to care about what they say, but not anymore. After everything I've already lost, losing them is, in fact, a blessing. Not at home and in a kind is the way I can muster. Get a divorce, agree to divorce the wife, keep the daughter. Now on to the next story. Story 7. Am I an a-hole if I allow my daughter to change her name? I, female 29, have a daughter, female 10, with my previous partner, who sadly died when my daughter was 1. When my daughter was 3, I began dating my now husband, Matt, male 34, who has 2 boys, 10 to 11, with his ex-wife. I've had a great bond with his kids since they were little, and I've always tried to make it clear that, while I know I'm not their mom, I'm another person who will always love and support them. My husband is a fantastic dad, and my daughter is incredibly close to him. Last year, we had our first child together, a son, and my daughter, Mia, has brought up a few times that she's now the only one without Matt's surname. I spoke to her about it, and she explained that it sometimes makes her feel like she's not really part of the family. It was pretty heartbreaking, as we've always tried to keep her dad's memory alive, but reassure her that it's okay for her to love Matt as a dad too. It's obviously something that is playing on her mind, as she came home from school last week and asked me if I thought Matt would adopt her, so he could be her dad too. Matt and I spoke about it, and although he said he would adopt her in a heartbeat, we felt we should wait a few years until she's older and can understand the gravity of the decision. I suggested adding Matt's surname to Mia's, and she loved the idea. After Matt discussed it with the boys, and they were excited, Mia and Matt had a heartfelt dinner, and Mia wrote a letter asking him to adopt her. The emotional moment led to tears from both Mia and Matt. Even the waitress shed a few tears. However, things took a turn when Matt's late partner's parents felt it was an insult to their son's memory, and I'm being blamed for not dissuading Mia from the idea. While I understand their connection to their son, Matt's ex-wife went further, calling our decision disgusting and claiming that Mia taking Matt's surname devalues the boys' relationship with their late father. In the heat of the argument, I lost my composure and reminded her that she forfeited any right to input into Matt's decisions when she left him for another guy. Despite the criticism, Matt stands firmly by our decision, but now I'm questioning if there's any validity to their comments. I wonder if supporting Mia in her decision might lead to legal consequences if she later decides against Matt adopting her. Mia is currently thrilled about the idea, and the thought of taking that happiness away from her is difficult for me to bear. Edit. Sorry, I should have made it clear that we were hyphenating her surname. It'll be up to her if she wants to use the hyphenated version in day-to-day life or just my husband's, or any other as a middle name. Everyone who matters is on board with the name amendment. All due respect to your previous partner's parents, but Mia keeping his name surely will not bring him back to life. She's living on and being happy, that is his legacy. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. No respect to your current husband's ex-wife. Her attitude stinks. Not a-hole. You are completely right. Thank you. Note: do not hyphenate. Just add it as a second surname without hyphenating it. When a name is hyphenated, you must use both on all legal documents, bank accounts, credit cards, etc. If you simply have two surnames, she can choose which she uses and where. We filled out the paperwork this afternoon, and she chose to have her current surname as an additional middle name and my husband's as her surname. Not a-hole. The ex-wife needs to shut the hell up. She literally has no part in this, and her reasoning is, well, just plain stupid. Your previous partner's parents, though, are very justified in their emotion. For them, the idea might evoke the feeling of losing a part of their son once again. Your proposed compromise seems thoughtful. Mia would retain her late father's name while also incorporating her stepfather's name as a recognition of his role in her upbringing. It's understandable why, at her age, she might have felt somewhat excluded from the family. Considering both perspectives, it seems like a reasonable solution, especially if it doesn't involve taking away her father's name. Mia may even decide to revert to her original name when she's older. Now on to the next story. Story 8. Am I the a-hole for reminding my ex she has no say in where my son goes to school? A little background info. My ex and I broke up when she got pregnant with my son, Vincent, because she left out one tiny little detail during our time together. She was married with kids. She and her husband almost divorced. I fought to be in my son's life and got sole custody in the end. My ex still has visitation, and Vincent has met his other 4 half-siblings, who are around the same age as him. Vincent just turned 5, and I've started thinking about elementary school next year. Some of my friends' kids and my sister's children attend the same private school, which offers education from pre-K to high school. I've heard numerous positive things about this school, and my nephews, who have been there for years, absolutely love it. The school is known for its non-strict environment, small class sizes, and attentive teachers. Having attended various school events there, I have witnessed firsthand the wonderful community it fosters, and I believe my son would benefit greatly from being a part of it. However, when I mentioned this school to my ex during her visit with Vincent, she became defensive. She expressed a strong preference for public schools and seemed to disapprove of the idea of Vincent attending a private school. While I understand and agree that there's nothing wrong with public schools, I believe that this specific private school would provide unique advantages for Vincent's education. As I shared more information about the school, her frustration appeared to escalate. Eventually, she revealed that she opposes the idea of Vincent attending this private school because she envisioned him going to the same school as his half-siblings. Sending him elsewhere would mean less time for them to spend together, which is something she strongly desires. We started arguing. She was set on him not going there, and I eventually told her, I'm the one who gets to make these decisions, so she has no say in any of this, and I'm only telling her as a courtesy. She got really quiet and started crying. She said I didn't need to rub it in her face, and she's only thinking about Vincent spending less time with her side of the family if he goes to a different school. She called me some very unkind names and left. I understand that she wants him to be close to her other kids, but I don't see why that could cost him having a better education. But I am wondering if maybe I was a little too far in throwing the custody arrangement in her face. Don't know if it was the right call to say those things and remind her she has no control of what happens in his life. Am I the a-hole now? For the top comments, not a-hole. The world doesn't revolve around what she wants. Seems like your ex never learned that lesson since her infidelity. If the person wants to go to that private school, then that's all you really need to know. It's not like he will never see his half-siblings or something. Also, have a good education or let him live in comfort, not the fact how close or not he may be with your ex's kids. Also, unless his half-siblings are the same age as he is, which seems unlikely, I'm not sure how much they'd actually see each other in school. It's not like they're going to be walking home from the bus stop together, sharing classes, eating together, etc. Until I was in high school, my school system rarely offered opportunities for us to mingle with people from other grade levels, and even in high school, most of our activities at the school were organized by grade levels. Even if the kids were in the same grade, it's natural for children to develop different friend groups and interests as they grow, and it's unrealistic to expect them to stick together all the time. Additionally, enforcing their constant interaction at school seems impractical. I suspect her resistance to Vincent attending a private school may be more about financial constraints than his contact with his half-siblings. Moreover, attending the same school could potentially expose Vincent to rumors about being the child of an affair, a situation no child deserves. Keeping them in different schools might be in the best interest of all the children, considering the unique circumstances. I'm not sure about her social circle, but she seems to be overlooking potential challenges, especially when school moms become aware of the situation. For instance, the day Vincent has to draw his family tree might bring unwanted attention. I've witnessed a similar situation with my niece, whom I raised. Her teachers disclosed personal details about her parents' struggles with substances, causing unnecessary turmoil. In such cases, decisions need to be made based on what is in the child's best interest, setting a precedent that ensures stability. It might be a form of tough love, but given the gravity of the situation, individuals who make significant mistakes may need to accept a diminished role in decision-making and lack credibility. It's intriguing to think about how someone with 4 kids manages to find time for an affair, especially considering the demanding schedules many parents have. So I'm sure that made having an affair easier for her since we didn't see each other too often. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.